Okay, here we are in Faith and Trust, section Morality and Halacha, page 66, part 5. The Chazon Ish said, there are ways to acquire the elevated virtue of subjugating oneself to the law of the Torah. First of all, training oneself to do it so habitually, and secondly, studying the law. As is known, limited faith is not enough to stop a person from performing evil acts, for he is pursued
Indefatigably.
Really? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Indefatigably by his natural desires. Having one's deeds and beliefs in total accord necessitates much training and perseverance in studies. This does not only apply to Torah, this applies in everything. I can know science, food, and nutrition. I can know what I should eat and how I should exercise. I can even give lectures in that. God only knows that those teachers on college campuses around the world are overweight. And same with gym teachers, by the way. Overweight and will eat whatever they do, drink 1,000 cups of coffee, and don't listen to what they teach. But you also have people in Torah study who will learn Torah, and they will theoretically know what they should do, but when it comes to real life, suddenly they turn that off and switch on the other part, and they act inappropriately. So it doesn't matter which thing we're talking about, which type of study, may be secular or religious. One's deeds and beliefs need to be worked on to get them in sync. Okay? Many books have been written and many wise opinions have been expressed with the aim of perfecting one's traits. Everyone agrees that the perfection of one's traits has two components. One is not following the soul's natural desire on the one hand, and emphasizing the great obligation to adhere to the laws of the Torah, and warning against this great sin of disobedience to Hashem's Torah on the other. Recognizing the evil of the bad ways and the obligation to adhere to the good, together turn man onto the good path so that he may always stay on it. Okay, and that's the end of that part. Next, number 6. Indeed, the only way to correct the heart is to correct deeds, making a definite resolution to do so. When many deeds are done, as one battles courageously against the free natural will, the heart's desire changes from bad to good. Okay? And again, I think that this is borne out with everything that we do. Once we start to break the bad habits, if we can habituate ourselves to that, then that becomes the new habit. So the Chazon Ish is not really saying anything startling. It's just that, and most of Musar is not startling. It's just that we need to know how to change ourselves. And so he's saying basically, habituate yourselves. And so a person can acquire good qualities by training himself to overcome his material desires and his emotional tendencies time after time, and by doing deeds in line with the intellect and the Torah obligations. Gradually, he will become accustomed to doing what is good. And I just want to see what he's... Okay, he's translating correctly there. And it will become an inherent tendency. This is the best way to acquire good qualities, by training oneself. Acquiring good qualities by ways of study also begin with a battle, that of tormenting and subjugating the uninhibited desires. For on the whole, one has no desire to pour over books that condemn the pleasures of flesh and encourage one to be modest and to withdraw from these pleasures that seek to restrain young men from mischief. It is necessary to resolve and persist in reading, to coerce the non-logical aspects of human nature. Okay, this is true. I mean, let's face it. Who wants to do that which is right? We rather do that which feels good. That's the whole generation. That was the 60s, right? Feel good, feel
Free to be
easy.
me.
Say that again?
Free to be me.
Free to be me.
Don't know. I don't remember it very well.
I appreciate that. Okay.
Okey-dokey.
But
That's
this
not going to get you out of it.
Right. But this is also today where we're preaching that if it feels good, that's all we need to do. And he's saying, no, it's not what it has to be. We have to, again, all Muslims would say we have to keep the Torah as our beacon. And yet, to get the person to sit down and to read this book and to think about it, or to read any Muslim book and to think about it, or to go to the Shulchan Aruch and say, you must be kidding, I'm supposed to be doing what? Okay? So, all of those, and actually do it. Again, you can read it, but then you have to say, okay, I have to do it. That's one is to sit down, which I don't think most people do, no matter how easy it's made. The worst thing about our scroll is with everything they translate, nobody has any excuse not to know.
People should be storming that place.
I'm saying not to know how to go through a Gemara. There's absolutely no excuse anymore not to know all of right behind it, all of that. 75 books worth. Everything is out there. You're not going to know everything in depth. No question. But you will be able to have a decent grasp of Judaism. Okay? And not only that, but they have others. The Art Scroll Chumash. Again, you're not going to know everything, but you'll have a good grasp of the story and commentaries and understandings of what's going on. Then, not only Art Scroll, but you have Judaica Press. And after that, you have others who have translated and gave commentary. Valid, good commentary. Even if you wanted to go to the old Hertz Chumash, which for years was the mainstay of all synagogues. It was. The Hertz Chumash was the main. The only reason that it was taken away, the only reason it lost favor, is because he quoted biblical scholars. But he had an agenda with that too. And it was a good agenda. And he wrote at the end of Genesis and the other books, he would write, in Genesis he actually writes to show why biblical scholarship is foolish. Nobody ever reads it. I brought that up on one Shavuos. But it's the other ones he goes through how to understand Karbonos. He was really a very good writer that way. Again, he had an agenda. And he wants to show people, yes, you can read their stuff, and even they say it's from us, and they can get some understandings from it. Nothing wrong with archaeology. The Chief Rabbi of England, it makes sense that he would be that way. Okay? But you had him. So again, with all that stuff available to us, the Shulchan Aruch, the Mishnah Berurah is translated into English by somebody. I forget who does it. But again, all of these things are available. Nobody can claim that they do not know what Jewish law demands of them. There's absolutely no complaint. There's absolutely no way to truly claim that with everything out there, you should be able to know Hashkafa, Jewish philosophy, the idiot books of history are out there by Blech, and you can have an understanding of where we came from.
They're actually pretty good.
I like it. I actually like it. Yeah. I like most of the idiot books. I think they're very well done.
Yeah, I do.
But that's what he's saying. It's very hard to sit down and with all that ability to sit down and to see what they're saying and know that now I become culpable. Because once I read it, so I know the law. I can't claim ignorance anymore. If I can't claim ignorance, and now I'm going to break the law, so then I'm in trouble. So better, I don't know what's in there. I don't want to know what's in there. Leave me alone. It's too hard for me to understand my limited mind, my small mind. Who am I? And again, I say to them, you're just a bunch of baloney. It's all in English. There's no excuse anymore. And when people don't listen, so they get into trouble. But his point is, with all of that, with all that help out there, who wants to hear it because it's going to live my lifestyle? Nobody wants to limit their lifestyle. Okay? And that's why he says you have to train yourself. It's a real training. Nobody wants to work out either. Who wants to get on that treadmill? It's the most boring thing in the world to get on a treadmill. That's why they have TVs.
I do it every day.
Right. That's not a treadmill. Okay.
No, working out.
Okay. But but that's why they have to put TVs on, or people have to have all the noise going in their ears, because it's such a boring thing. In the old days, we used to actually get on our bikes.
You used to go out and plow the North 40. What are you talking about?
I never did
time
that.
for recreation.
When I was 25, it was no big deal to walk from one side of Jerusalem to the other. But I was 25 then.
Yeah, that's the same. Look, my point is that all these things that we've done is based upon what we trained ourselves to do. We can either train ourselves to do nothing and atrophy, or we can grow. So he's saying make that choice. And he's saying choose life, as it were. Okay, next. She said the learned in matters of moral teachings found that there are two types of Torah learning that influence a person. One is learning about the obligation to observe the law and to act according to it. That's number one. One develops a live awareness of what one should be aware of, learns to pay attention to who is commanding others, namely Hashem, master of the world, creator of all creation, and acknowledges the sin of ignoring God's existence and the extent of the punishment for it. The other type of Torah study is the study of the details of the halacha in each and every case. The reason you do that, by the way, is to understand why the law is the way it is. Okay, that's why we get into that depth of learning. The labor of Torah has the power to purify the soul, refine and polish it, thus bringing upon one the pleasant feeling of holiness and purity, and instilling deep in one's heart a feeling of disgust toward undue frivolity and passing pleasures. In addition, the labor of Torah learning results in tremendous love and devotion to the observance of the details of the mitzvah. The halachas for which he is laboring over, and his innermost self will tell him that this is what he was created for. What's the other beauty of going through an argument and understanding the argument? Namely, you see what Hashem gave us is really full and complete, and has so much depth to it that you fall in love with it. Really, that's what it does. Okay, so that's, if you can get to that level, fine. If you can't, so it's just a matter of following the Torah and following the halacha. In either case, the attempt is to develop your love of God so that you will not do it out of fear of being punished, because that's just ridiculous. It doesn't last. As compared to respect of God, saying that if God gave me this law, it must be for my good, even though I don't at this point understand it. But I'm going to trust God, because God wouldn't do anything to harm me or to trick me or to make me look like an idiot. Okay, so that's really when we say Yirei Shamayim, we're not talking about people who fear punishment. That's a very low level of fear, and it's actually a dangerous level of fear, because when it doesn't happen, you can say, "Oh, I got away with this." As compared to the respect, that's the other definition of Yira, the respect of Hashem, the feeling of the awesome parts of Hashem that He's giving us, this tremendous thing to safeguard us. That's a different thing, and that's a different type of Yira, and that Yira is long lasting. That Yira is what the Torah says, I will reward you for 1,000 generations. If you do it out of love, 2,000 generations. But we're talking a minor difference. One is I respect you and I understand why you've done it. The second one is I love you because I realize that everything is just for me, just to improve me. How can I not love you for that? You're giving everything over to me. As one of the people here said in Shabbos, Hashem is a good father. We keep rebelling against him, and he keeps saying, "Okay, I'll let that go too."
We hope.
For 3,000 years, he's been holding on to us. He hasn't thrown us up yet. Now, in truth, he says, if laboring over the clarification of a halacha plants in the heart love of the law, specifically in regard to the halacha one is dealing with, it also increases the general love of clarifying the rulings in all the laws of the Torah. The emotional identification with the importance of the details of a mitzvah needs to be acquired and is not intrinsic to human nature. In fact, superficial thinking rejects it. For instance, when one is required to believe that shaking out a garment on Shabbat requires one to bring a sin offering, whereas chopping wood is only prohibited by rabbinical decree, or to believe that the dishes sold to a non-Jew on Erev Pesach have to be immersed in a mikvah after Pesach. If you sell the dishes, they have to be immersed. It is even harder to believe in laws pertaining to monetary matters, where one is embroiled in a dispute with a fellow Jew, when the entire army of one's character traits is activated against the rival, and one is incapable of seeing oneself as blameworthy. One's evil inclination triumphs, making one lean in many different directions, blinding him, sealing his ears, and smoothing out all the issues in his favor. In such a situation, only if one has already spent days and nights clarifying the laws, studying the books of the commentators and the halachic authorities who have shown us the way of the oral law and have elaborated on it endlessly, will one be able to subjugate one's heart to law and acknowledge laws that cause one loss. This labor will serve as a shield against the competition between human beings, against the love of larceny. It will provide the laborer with a love of law and justice, dearer to him than any material assets in life. And I remember he also said before, I think it was he said it, that if you have a tzaddik embroiled in a dispute with somebody, or maybe this is a different class, I'm not sure anymore, then, this is the ethics class, that's what it was. So we said if a tzaddik is embroiled in, is taking care of people's money, and so he really didn't do anything wrong, but he didn't protect himself as much. Mm-hmm. And if it would be anybody else, we wouldn't think anything of it, because he was supposed to be above all this, and he didn't safeguard himself by, maybe he had pockets or something. He didn't have another person with him. He didn't take all the safeguards. So people would say, oh, so he stole something. And then what does a true tzaddik do? He gets it right away. Okay, that's what that share said. I forget who was saying it, but that's basically what he's saying. If I'm going to learn the law, and I'm going to understand what's going on there, so I'm not going to put myself in the position to be sued, as it were. And even if it happens that I made the mistake, I'm going to listen, and I'm going to not, and I won't defend myself just to try to save my money, because I know I'm wrong. If I know I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and I'm willing to admit it. But if I never did studying, and I never was influenced by the Torah, my evil inclination is going to be very strong, and I'm going to think, well, you know what? Really, he owed me the money. He stole something from me, so you can rationalize anything. How many times did people rationalize going to in those days, the telephones and hitting the coin return, and then when we get the money from that, we put it in our pockets, or any of these coin returns, we press it. You see people doing it, even to this very day, where they press it and they shield it after they get money from it, or they get somebody's cards and they use that. And a card that, not legally, not the charge cards, but I'm saying some other card, they find something.
Like Notre Dame, they use your Notre Dame ID, which doesn't have money attached to it in general. You charge it up with that they call donor dollars. It has to be used on campus. Okay. But somebody else could get a hold of that because you don't have a PIN number for it. You just use it.
Well, that's just not like stealing. But
well, it's no different than picking out money out of the thing. It's still stealing. You don't know who it belongs to. Correct. But
that's just downright stealing. I mean, if I have somebody's card, I'm just downright stealing that.
People do it.
What I'm saying though is, if you find a card that it says 10% off, and really the due date is gone, but you bring it to the nurse, it says 10% off of an X haircut. And it says the due date is February 14th, 2014. You bring it March, and you give it to them, saying 10%. You knew that really they shouldn't honor it. Mm-hmm. Okay, and you give it to them. You're hoping for one of two things: either they're not going to recognize it, that it's really expired February, or you're prepared that if they say, this was expired, you say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know. How about us pushing it through? Okay, so that's, again, you're wrong. Okay, you're stealing from the industry. Now they may actually give it to you because they would want to keep you as a customer, and they may have given you 10% off if you would have asked. I heard they use a 10% sale. Maybe they would do it, but they also have the right not to. In all those cases. But we rationalize to ourselves that really they make enough money. So why should I have to pay for their vacation to the Bahamas? Okay? And that, again,
that's why they have a business.
Right. And that's why the Chazon Ish is saying these are the times when the Yetzer Hara is kicking in. And if I would just learn and again condition myself, not only to learn but to actually live by what I'm learning, then I would be less likely to do that because I would be trained to not try to cheat the system. If the person says, you know what, we're having 10%, we're going to give you 10% off. You must have by a day. I have no problem with that. But not to trick them. Mm-hmm. And this also goes into another situation which we'll talk about in a couple of weeks. I want to talk about it last week, but I was taken over. Right? But it was namely, if I go into a store but I have no intent to buy, I'm not allowed to say how much is that. I can't do that sort of window shopping. Because if I don't have intent to buy, if I have intent to buy, everything is fair ball. But if I don't have intent to buy, I have to say to the person, you know what, I really am not going to buy anything. But I'm just curious, if you don't mind, what's the price? But I'm not going to buy it. But if he says that and he wants to take that person, the salesperson wants to take the time, that's up to them. Had a person come to my door, foreigner. He was from Bulgaria, I remember. Bulgaria. He was selling educational stuff, for lack of better terms. And I said to him, as he was lying on my grass, I said to him, first of all, stand up. You don't have to sit down like a mensch on my porch with me. So now, you have to know from the beginning, I am not going to buy anything from you. If you want to sit here and talk with me, no problem. But I'm not buying anything. I'm telling you straight out, there will be no sale here. The only reason I'm going to talk to you is to find out what Bulgaria is all about. I have no interest in your product. So you can choose to leave, or you can sit down and talk to an American.
Yeah.
Period. And so the guy said, oh, I'll sit down. I said, great, you want something to drink? And we had a nice discussion. And then I said to him, okay, look, you have to go back to work. I have to go to what I have to do. So thank you very much for the discussion. I hope you enjoyed it. Have a good one. That was it. But I had to tell him straight out, I'm not buying anything from you. Otherwise, he may think, oh, if I sit long enough, he may decide to do something. And that would be getting his hopes up. Jewish ethics does not allow that. Jewish law doesn't allow that. Okay, so that's what I'm saying. So in all these cases, but if I wouldn't have known that, then we'll do what everybody else does. Either we say right away, leave me alone, get that away from me, I don't want to buy anything from you, which is also fearful. Or people like to waste other people's time. Let me show you, let me see everything, just to torture the guy. He shows everything, but they're never going to give him a sale, which is the worst case scenario. Why torture the guy? Let him go. Like I said, no thank you. I'm not going to buy anything, but if you want to sit, you can sit. We'll talk about the old country. The old time. That's what he's talking about here. The words of Rav Yisrael Salant on this matter in his letter are very pertinent. In prohibitions of unkosher meat, in mixtures of meat and milk, man is ruled by habit. He naturally recoils from the forbidden and is not overwhelmed by his evil inclination. On the other hand, this is, if you think about it, this is true. Before I go further, If I tell you something is forbidden, your normal reaction is not to do it. Your normal reaction may be to say why, but really for most of us, we're law-abiding citizens. If you tell me not to do it, I'm not going to do it. At least not in front of you. Because we're all told that you're not supposed to cross except that there's between the white lines. The problem is there's no white lines in all of Bangor, in all of South Bend. I get to see white lines on the street. There's no crosswalks in here. Where? In the city, maybe. In the city part.
Not in residential areas.
Not in residential areas.
No, but there's some like over on Miami.
Oh, at the intersection, maybe.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
I never saw them. That's how much I look. Okay.
There are a bunch in Mishawaka.
Okay. Mishawaka's a different city, excuse me. I live in the hoity-toity land of South Bend.
One of our better known suburbs.
Say that again?
One of Mishawaka's better known suburbs.
Right. Okay. So, but like I said, but that would be one of the laws. Imagine I have a law that I can't jaywalk, yet nobody cares about that in this country. For the most part, we all jaywalk, unless it's right there in front of us. But you do it in front of the cops. That's how lackadaisical everybody is. Okay. And but normally, if we know it's forbidden, then we're naturally wont to do it. It really has to be forbidden. And that's something that's stupidity. But it has to be forbidden. Murder is forbidden. Most people don't murder. Rape is forbidden. Most people don't rape. Stealing is forbidden. Most people don't go out and steal.
It's a bigger problem with stealing.
No, it's the definition of stealing. It's the definition of stealing. No, I'm just saying, I don't care what, I'm not equating
pilfering.
everything.
There's a lot of pilfering going on, even with people who wouldn't go out and rob a bank. Just like you say, taking the coin.
Okay. Well, they don't consider that stealing.
Huh?
They don't consider that
But
stealing.
it is stealing.
You're right, but that's...
Taking something that doesn't
Correct.
belong to you.
No, I'm not, again, what I'm saying is people, the reason they can do that is because people don't naturally, they don't define that as, they define that as jackpot.
I see.
When it's a jackpot, it's a jackpot.
Okay.
I find 25 cents, I'll give you an example. You go into a store and you find 25 cents on the floor. What do? Forget you. I know you're gonna say. What does a regular person do?
Takes it.
Puts it in his pocket.
Sure.
Picks up, what's the expression? Finders keepers, losers keepers. What's halacha say about this?
Don't.
No. What does halacha say? Don't be too quick. Halacha says if it's in front of the cash register on the customer side, then it's yours. Keep it. Because that was the customer's. The customer's no longer here. It never made it to the purveyor. If it was on the side of the cash register, that's the store's. That's not for you.
Well, how would I get to it on the side of the cash register anyway?
You are in what's it called, Martin's. Martin's, depending on where I am on the aisle, some is at the cash register. I'm walking right there. So there's a place for me and a place for you. So if it says closer to the cash register, it's none of my business. That's the stores. I can't touch it. If it's closer to me, then I can take it on my side of the cash
register. You could pick it up
register.
and give it to the cashier and say,
No,
put it in your open shortcut.
No, but it's not. It may not be the store's.
It's not mine either, so.
The halacha says you can keep it. To give it to the store.
A windfall.
Yeah, it's your windfall.
Isn't it if it's something you can't clearly identify as somebody else?
I said a quarter.
Yeah.
It's a quarter. If it has your name written on it, I have to give it to you. But otherwise, I don't.
Or if it's got two heads, it belongs to toothpaste.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know the owner.
Huh?
You know the owner if one side has an X carved in it.
Oh.
It's a cartoon character. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
Or it's the difference between finding change on the street and finding a wallet. One you can
Now,
identify.
if I find the wallet and it has a name and I have to...
I'm agreeing with you. I'm saying that's
Right. But what I'm saying is, if I find, like I said, a coin, depending on where it is in the store, will determine halachically whether I can keep it. So here, if something is, so people take that extension, and they say, look, if the money came out because I pressed the coin return, so obviously that money was not supposed to go to the phone company that was really supposed to go to the customer who had left it. So that's my side of the aisle. So if that's the case, I can take the money. That's how they would rationalize that. And when they come to stores and they see money at those machines, they find it on the floor, then they'll say, okay, so it's mine. Why is it yours? Because the machine doesn't belong to the store. The machine belongs to the other company who's renting the space. They have to rent for that. They say, so that money again it's not the store's, it's not this guy's, it's on the floor, it's mine. And so now, if they're kids, they take that cord and they put it right into the machine anyway. And they try to get a prize. But really, that's where everybody's getting it from. They haven't been convinced that it's stealing.
Well, this opens up a whole new source of income for me.
There
I can do it guilt-free.
There. But if it's clear that it's stealing, most people don't do it. Okay, that's all he's saying. Okay, so on the other hand, the matter between man and man, he sins blithely and has no fear. Even when his fellow Jew sues him, he finds ways to avoid both him and the trial. But the prohibition of robbery is more severe than the prohibition of eating non-kosher meat. But when it comes to robbery, even Yom Kippur does not provide atonement. And as long as the object is not his according to the law, he is guilty of robbery. But since there is no regular habit of observing this law, his soul has not acquired love and fear of it. Rabbi Yisrael Salanta continues that even people whose good deeds obligate us to honor them and to number them among the God-fearing people, even such people sometimes fail in that they try to avoid litigation. Now, if you're going to avoid litigation, just not to pay, that's what we're talking about. But if you avoid litigation by saying, you know what, I'm not going to go to court, here's some money, you say, I owe you, here. Even though I don't believe I owe you, I'm going to give it to you because I want to avoid. That's a different thing. It's only when I keep going away, trying to change venue, trying to do this, trying to do whatever I'm going to do in order that I don't have to pay you. So that's something else. And I'm going to say, I believe I'm Yerei Shamayim, I'm God-fearing, so on and so forth. What Rabbi Yisrael Salanta is saying here, or what Chazon Ish quoting Yisrael Salanta is saying, is that people know, even if they're learned, they haven't learned this particular section, they haven't conditioned their heart to love the halacha in this manner, so they're going to try every single trick in the book not to pay. Because we all know, kesef ya'ane erekol, money answers everything. Whereas people are wont to say in this area, follow the money. Right? Follow the money and that answers everything.
It has more to do with crime or misdeeds.
Sorry?
That has more to do with
follow the money?
Deliberate misdeeds, yeah.
But follow the money has to do with everything in the end. And even in this case, follow the money. Why doesn't the guy want to admit it? Because he doesn't want to pay. That's why he's trying to avoid litigation. So the main way to heal with these illnesses of the soul is to delve into the halacha meticulously and go into all its details until these will instill in the person complete love of the law. Again, we're not looking just to know what the halacha is, but we're looking to instill a love of the halacha. Now, the Chazon Ish was well known for his in-depth analysis of the Talmud. That is ruchsa kopius. There's nothing lacking there. When it comes to hashkafa, this is what remains. But when it comes to his halachic examination, it's all over the place, and people quote him constantly. And so it would make sense that he would be saying what he's saying. He understood that the more I go into it, the more depth that you achieve, the more you understand what was really behind the Torah statements and how they can influence us and so on and so forth. So that's why he was saying, if you go into depth, it's really going to completely give you a complete level of the law. But Yisrael Salanta didn't view the general exertion in acquiring the fear of God as the main thing, but rather the main thing is lacking if one has not learned and one has not exerted oneself to understand the laws of Choshen Mishpat, the laws relating to judicial matters. And even if one has gone over the matter quickly and superficially, one has not yet acquired what is needed in order to love the law and to devote oneself to it. In-depth study of halakha to the point of reaching a clear ruling in all the detailed cases that emanate from it in a ceaseless labor requiring many years of diligent study. For the acquisition of this in-depth learning is the final result of Torah study. Our sages went so far as to say that it cannot be acquired by irregular study or without investing effort. They further said that the Torah is acquired by 48 ways and means, all of which are moved beyond the ways of nature, habituating oneself to aim for perfection to the point that one's nature will not impede one's devotion and diligence, and one will not slumber nor sleep. So he's really asking you a lot here, but think about the rewards that you're going to get if you can actually do this. Our sages extolled the virtues of true justice greatly, as far as to say in the first chapter of the tractate of Shabbat, a judge who gives an absolutely true judgment even one time, it is as if he has become a partner to the Holy One, blessed be He, in creation. For judgment done according to the Torah ensures the existence of the world, as it says in the first chapter of Pirkei Avot. The world stands on three things: on justice, on truth, and on peace. And the Torah Choshen Mishpat said, this is what our sages meant when they said a judge who judges. That the Holy One, blessed be He, created the world so that it should be perpetuated. The evil people who rob and steal destroy it with their actions, as we found in the generation of the flood, that the destruction decree was signed only because of robbery. Okay, in the flood, the rabbis tell us that the world was filled with evil, sexual immorality, murder, this and that. Idolatry, sexual immorality, but that didn't seal the deal. What sealed the deal for the flood, for God's destruction of the world as we knew it, at that point, was people were stealing from each other. Because when it comes to idolatry, when it comes to sexual immorality, that you need a Torah for. You have to have a Torah to tell you cannot worship a stone. Because what's wrong with worshiping a stone? If, as Mark said, it's the opiate of the masses. What do I care what opiate you have? Good luck to your opium. Okay, if it makes you nice, it makes you good, wonderful. When it comes to sexual immorality, who am I to say that two men can't live together? Who am I to say that two women can't live together? Who am I to say that a dog and a person can't live together? None of my business. If that's how you achieve sexual happiness, if that's what you're shooting for, go ahead. And I'm not, for those millions of people watching, equating bestiality with homosexuality. Okay? I just said, just in general sentence. Okay? Because I know that I'll be yelled at throughout all the universe of YouTube.
You'll be ignored and castigated by the people who would do that anyway.
Okay, there you go. But the point is very simple. If those things I need the Torah for, and if you look at the immorality that we talked about, at least for, and even for us, it's my sister-in-law. What's wrong with having your sister-in-law? What's wrong with having your sister, for that matter? What's wrong with incest? What's wrong with it? Besides genetically, supposedly, it affects us genetically. I don't know if that's proven one way or another.
Yeah.
It's proven? Okay. So, the Torah forbids it. I have no problem with it. But as long as there's evidence to what they're saying, it weakens the gene pool, or it causes recessive genes to become the dominant genes. I knew there was I remember from my high school career.
Well, you just have to look at the Amish community. There's so much inbreeding that they have terrible problems with birth defects now.
Okay.
that they didn't have when they first came to this.
Like I said, I have no problem with it. But if I didn't have the Torah and Amish community and the states of Arkansas, is that Arkansas? Still?
What?
There's some
Oh,
states
yes.
that are known for the inbreeding. Okay, Upper Maine has some is well
Really?
known. Yeah,
Oh,
it's
boy.
well known for certain things. So, but they don't see it as wrong. And so you need a Torah for that. That's my point. You need a Torah to tell you that this is a forbidden relationship. Because logically, I'm going to say, why wouldn't I? The kings, I mean, forget these people. The kings used to inbreed because they wanted the money to go stay with the family. Okay, so that's what everybody's doing. Again, I need a Torah for that. But I don't need the Torah to tell me stealing is wrong. That you don't need the Torah for. You own something, you're going to kill me when I try to take it from you. You see about all the people who have guns. You say, when they say, you come take my gun, I'll shoot you before you take my gun. It's clear.
Do people say that?
It's clear.
Pardon?
Do people actually say that?
No, they usually say.
They don't say it, they talk with their
If you
gun.
come for my guns and ammunition, you can have it one round at a time.
There you go. But that's what's going on, okay? So that's why he said stealing. That's why the rabbi saw steal. Robbery is what sealed the deal. Because that you don't need a Torah for. That's just pure logic. Okay? From this we see that a judge who breaks the arms of the wicked, takes their loot from them and returns it to the rightful owners, ensures the existence of the world, and brings about the completion of the Creator's will, who created the world so that it should exist. It is then as if he becomes a partner to a Holy One, blessed be he, in creation. Avraham Avinu, my father, was acknowledged by Hashem and was called my beloved by Hashem, only due to the fact that he walked the path of justice and taught his sons to follow that path as well. Moshe Rabbeinu, the ultimate prophet, took Jethro's advice about judgment to appoint judges who will warn the people and teach them the law, and Hashem agreed with him. Yehoshua, he also after he made a covenant with Israel, finished his speech with the mention of justice. As it says, and Joshua made a covenant with the people that day, and he laid down the law and justice in Shechem. For judgment, according to Torah law, is the basis and a great principle in the service of Hashem. The author of the Torah goes on to say much more about this matter. The author of the Torah, the Torah Shulchan Aruch, the precursor to the Kodesh Jewish law written by Cairo, right? So the Torah, if I remember correctly, was the Rosh's father, I think. But it's the generation before the Cairo. So the author of the Torah put these principles at the beginning of Choshen Mishpat to teach us that the criteria of robbery and stealing are not set by human beings' opinions, but only by the laws of Torah. Anything that is against the law is stealing, even if it does not seem so to the people who are viewing it subjectively. Any act that is according to law is just, even though it is against human thought. As Rav Yisrael Salanta said in his letter, anything that does not belong to one according to the law is stolen property, of which the Torah speaks in prohibitions against stealing. So again, what we're learning is a very important rule. Just because we think it's stealing doesn't make it stealing. If the Torah says it's stealing, then it's stealing. So if we disagree with the Torah's definition of stealing, that's our chison, that's our lacking, that's our misunderstanding. And it's very important to note. Like I said, if you take that store example, in front of the counter, behind the counter, and so on and so forth, you said everything is stealing. It's all the stores. The answer is no, it's not. In front is the customers, and they have a basis for that. Because The guys we don't expect the money to roll.
Well, I didn't say it was the stores, I said that probably the higher road to take would be to give it to the store to use it for its over and under cup at the register, because it isn't actually yours and it isn't actually theirs, so.
So the question is, no, but then you're giving away God's gift to you.
Really?
So I'll give you a gift.
That's a nice way to think about it.
I'll give you a gift. God gave you whatever the quarter, the nickel, the $50.
So not a lottery ticket, we get a quarter, okay?
By the way, I want to think about that. At what point do you think it's good to give this store? In other words, if you see a dime on the floor, big deal, right? Here's a dime. Put it for your overdraft. What are $100 bills on the floor?
Oh, that's a whole different game.
Right? Am I right?
That's a whole different
Right.
game.
At that point, you say, well, $100. I owe $10 to tzedakah. That's all. I don't know your $100. Right?
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So that's important to know too. You know, you're willing to give the 10 cents. You're even willing to give the quarter. But at what point do you say, finders keepers?
It depends on the day.
No, but think about that.
How short the interest
that's a very interesting way to look at it.
Yeah.
That's why I always tell people, when it came to tzedakah, if I make $1, if I make $10, if I make $1 million, it's still the same 10%. It's harder to write that check out for $100,000. But
No.
it really, what?
No. If that were 10%, no, it wouldn't be difficult at all.
That's 10% of $1 million.
Yeah, no difficulty at all.
because you have plenty left over.
You know what? I don't buy that until you actually write it. Until you actually write that check or give that cash over. The old joke was like this. The old joke. Today I'm in a good place to give the joke. Joke is like this. There is a person who was making very little money. Made $5 a week. $50 a week. $50 a week. And the preacher, he was a good Roman Catholic boy. He goes to church, and he hears the preacher say that you have to give 10%. So the plate comes around. He's struggling at $50 a week. He has to support the family. He's a good Roman Catholic, so he has 5, 6 kids. Okay, and yet he says the preacher says you have to give 10%. So it's $5 for me. He takes $5, puts it in every week. He's bringing the $5. Very nice, very good Christian. Okay. I should say Roman Catholic. Very good. There's a difference. Okay, very good Roman Catholic. Puts it in every time the plate comes. Boom, boom. Puts it in. Then the Lord blesses him. Somebody comes to him and says, "I like how you're working. I want to hire you. I'm going to give you $500 a week." $500. Thank you very much. Unbelievable. Goes home and tells his wife, "Honey, I got a job. $500 a week rate." Now, what does that mean to the plate? $50. As the plate's coming around, he's saying, "Whoa, you know what I used to do with $50? I used to support the family. I used to do anything with $50. And now I just put $50 on a plate? I don't know. And having a fight with themselves, but good Roman Catholic. Every time the plate comes by, $50 on the plate. I said 10%. That's my partner. 10%. Okay. It hurts him every single time. He has to go through the cheshbon every single time. Somebody else 6 months later says, "You know what? I see you working. I want you. You're a loyal worker. You're a good worker. I want you to come to work for me. And I know he's paying you $500. I'm going to give you $5,000." The guy's hit the jackpot. Unbelievable. He runs to his wife, "Honey, it's unbelievable. The Lord is blessing us. It's tremendous. $5,000. Oh, what we can do with $5,000. Great." Then lo and behold, Sunday's coming. Sunday's there. He's sitting in church. And now he's thinking, $500. $500? I can't do it. It's impossible. I used to do this. I could buy my wife a dress. I could get my son what he's always wanted. He's thinking all this. Certainly God doesn't want me to put $500 into this. I could do so much more with the money. The plate's coming closer and closer. He's arguing. The plate comes to him. He has $500. He knows he has to put $500 in. But he can't. He can't do it. Plate passes.
Back to the $50 a week job pretty soon, I'm seeing.
goes to the preacher. He says, Father, he tells him the whole story. So how his first 50, but he gave then 500, and he gave $500 to the place. But give me a blessing, Father. And the father said to him, I give you a blessing, you should make $50 a week again. Okay? Because really, it's all the same. But we don't realize it. As we go up in those mountains, by the way, if you say 100,000 so problems, will give you 10 million, there's going to be a time that you don't want to write that check out. And again, that's actually having the right to write the check out for. And to say, God, this is what you want from me, I'm going to give it to you. There's a time that we start saying, God, let's become investment partners. And you don't want it. Why should I give to this organization? I'll put it in my bank account, so when somebody really needs it, that's when I'll give it to them. Meanwhile, you're living off the interest. Okay, so there's always a time, and that's why we're saying that is you have to overcome that, and the only way you're going to do that is by understanding why we're doing everything we do. That's his claim. Okay, and then we'll have a better chance. But if we just rely upon ourselves and our religious fervor and these deals that we make with God, it doesn't work. That's what he was talking about. We'll stop there.